Preach the Word Ministries now presents another live series weekly with Evangelist McClure.
Hi friends, today I want to share with you about bearing the burden and tearing off the roof. It's a word about having faith for others, because oftentimes it's easier to have faith for someone else than it is for yourself. There's a very familiar story in the book of Mark chapter 2 where Jesus had come to Capernaum and he's in the house and he's preaching. And the Bible says that there are so many people there that there's not even room to get in the house. There's no room to even get in the door. There are 4 men that show up with a paralyzed man. And when they get there and they find the situation, they can't get into the presence of Jesus. So they crawl up on top of the house and they begin to tear the roof off. They lowered the man down into where Jesus was. And the Bible says when Jesus saw their faith, when he saw their faith, he healed the man. Now this man was paralyzed, and I believe there are often times in our lives where we'll meet people that are paralyzed, maybe not physically, but maybe spiritually, emotionally, mentally. They can't move. And oftentimes it's easier to write folks off and say, well, if they just help themselves, or if they would meet God halfway, or if they would do their part. But that's not what the gospel is about. In fact, Jesus shows us in these scriptures that he saw the faith of other people and he healed that man, because those people could reach to where that man couldn't. He couldn't move. And there are some people that are like that. They can't reach God on their own. They can't move. They can't do their part. And so I believe that God calls us to stand in the gap, to have faith for them. I believe that we can reach where someone else can't reach. But we got to have a burden for them. In Matthew chapter 12, Jesus defines relationships for us. He says, whoever does the will of my Father in heaven is my mother, is my sister, or my brother. These are true brethren, the ones who do the Father's will. Now Galatians chapter 6 says to bear one another's burdens and so fulfill the law of Christ. It's easy to have a burden for someone when you know that you're fulfilling the will of God, the way Christ would do it, to bear one another's burdens. It's easy to have faith for someone when you have a burden for them. Now, if you read on a little while later in Galatians 6, it says that each one should bear his own burden or bear his own load. You think, well, is God contradicting himself? No. Because the word burden in chapter 6 of verse 2 speaks of a weight or a load, something that you're under. In 6 and 5, when it talks about a burden, it talks about a job or a task, something that we have to do each of our own accord. Now, I can't do your job, but I can bear your load. I can help bear your burden and carry your load. Now, James 5 says, is anyone among you suffering? Let him pray. Is anyone among you cheerful? Let him sing psalms. He says, is there anyone among you sick? Let him call for the elders of the church and let them anoint him with oil and pray over him in the name of the Lord. And the prayer of faith will save the sick, and the Lord will raise them up. If they've committed any sins, they will be forgiven. It says to confess your trespasses one to another and pray for one another that you may be healed. The effective, fervent prayer of a righteous man avails much. I believe there is a lot that can be done when we will take on the burdens for each other, to help bear one another's loads, to bear that burden and tear the roof off and get to the presence of Jesus. I want to challenge you today. Find someone who is struggling. Find someone who is maybe stuck, paralyzed, and make up your mind that you're going to have faith for them to see what God can do for them by using you for a vessel. See what God can do when you'll bear the burden and tear off the roof to reach Him for them.
If you enjoyed today's video, we invite you to comment, rate, and subscribe for instant updates on new editions of the Life Series Weekly Video Devotion. Check out our Facebook page, Preach the Word Ministries. Just click on the link in the description below. It'll take you right there. You can also follow McClure on Twitter. Blessings to you, friends, from Preach the Word Ministries.